First, I'd like to thank the organizers of the International Conference on Advances in Information Technology. Thank you for hosting us. My name is Caleb Trujillo. I'm one of the 4 authors on this paper called Interactive Qualitative Data Visualization for Educational Assessment. And we're really eager to share this work because it brings together a lot of different disciplines that we're all trained in. So first, I want to introduce the problem that really motivated our group. We come from different areas of research, and we noticed that there was a really small overlap that occurs between the data visualization community and those doing qualitative educational research. And in particular, there's a really lack of overlap in this area of qualitative data visualization that's specific for education. So we know that data visualization accelerates the communication of quantitative measures across many fields, including education, but there are fewer visualization methods available for qualitative data. And this is a challenge because you need to capture both the context-specific information and simultaneously summarize trends when you're providing information to instructors. Now, the qualitative data is often vast, it's interrelated, it's systemically collected, usually aligns with a theoretical stance or methodology. And as a consequence, it often reflects context and the researcher's own perspective and interpretations. Now, there are ways to kind of organize these, but these considerations are hard to display in a visual graphic format. Now, qualitative data is also very far-ranging. You have everything from ethnographies and focus groups to classroom observations and assessment data. And so all of those we group together as qualia, which again can be difficult to quantify. But oftentimes instructors use qualitative data in the form of assessments, whether it's written tasks, asking students to complete reports, or just to gauge learning as a way of formative feedback. And so what we're interested in was exploring this small space between the two communities and to figure out how to use traditional statistical visualization techniques in a new way, and trying to figure out different ways, such as oftentimes a bar plot or scatter plot are used in learning analytics, but we wanted to kind of explore this in a more deep way. So first, I'll share some of the previous work related to this project. So in a previous study, these researchers found that after reviewing 784 articles from 3 prominent qualitative research journals, only about 23% actually just have data displays within their reports. And of those data displays, most of them were matrices, so like tables. Now, this is important to note because there were a lot of different visuals forms not represented here. And oftentimes in qualitative research, the data displays are more concept-driven than data-driven in the sense of like quantitative-driven, often used to summarize things. And similar findings have been seen in other studies like Henderson and Siegel's. Despite the growing use of qualitative data visuals, there's still a gap between the availability of data visualizations, but also a consideration of qualitative research in data visualization literacy framework. So for instance, a recent work by Borner, who looked at 50 years worth of work and 600 articles to summarize data visualization literacy, focus on 4 types of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio data. And they proposed a plethora of frameworks and methods for displaying the quantitative data, but oftentimes just grouped qualitative data as simply nominal. So there are kind of differences, though. There are some strong traditions in quantitative ethnography, such as the use of epistemic network analysis, feminist ethnography's use of geographic information systems in combination with the ethnographic studies. as well as ethnographic arrays. And in this project, we pull a lot of inspiration from previous work on word clouds and word streams. So for this particular study, we had kind of three guiding questions. The first was, how can details about context of assessment be integrated into a qualitative visualization? Second was, how can such a tool better support instructors as they explore student responses to an assessment? And then finally, we wanted to see what the extent of these interactive tools would be and how useful and easy they are for aiding instructors in making inferences about their students' progress. So I'll present the methods and results of the tool in a moment. But to note, the contributions of this work are that, we propose a clear interactive interface for qualitative visualizations and really focused on improving topic-focused data representations, building on that previous work of word streams. And we also want to enable user interactions and details on demand around formative educational assessment data that also connects to context-specific aspects of the data collection. And then we also provide an analysis of some of the insights and patterns by trying to show trends both at the individual student level and across the course. And then finally, we evaluated these visuals for their perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness on the proposed tool by conducting a user study with the university professors. So next I want to show you the different stages of our research and how we developed this. So the first was working with the data. Again, this is formative educational assessment data. So formative just means that it's collected in a way that you can use the information to inform your teaching. And so for this set, we used weekly journal entries from an introductory data visualization course, and as well as a statistics course. So altogether, we had 62 entries from 7 students. 6 were from the data visualization course. And these were collected weekly over 9 weeks. And they would ask things, there would be textual responses as they type in their journals through the learning management system. But these would be questions like, what are 2 things you are learning that come easily, and why do you feel that way? What are 2 things you're learning that you find challenging, and why do you feel that way? And what are 2 things you're learning that you want to work on? And students would be given a range of how many sentences were appropriate for the answer. It was very open in terms of response. The point of journals is oftentimes to cue reflection in the learning process and to inform the teacher where they're having difficulties with the subject. So once the data was kind of gathered and organized, this was collected with permission and IRB. Next, the data were processed. So to do this, we use the natural language processing techniques and Python and Spatie libraries. So first, we tokenize the words. So this would allow us to extract the words and phrases. We eliminated stop words, and then we assigned parts of speech to each token, such as a noun, verb, or adjective. And we also extracted noun phrases for topics. And then what we did was we did 2-way mapping. So each token and its dictionary form were connected to the topic evolution visualization so that we could see kind of how these topics changed, and then also connect back to the original context from which the token was pulled. Then finally, we used lemnization in order to combine root words and allow us to focus on topics and remove kind of the repetition of the different forms. So after data processing, we were ready to develop our qualitative data visualizations. And as you can see, we kind of had 2 main ones, the word cloud and the word stream, and you'll get to see those in just a sec. So for the for these, we identified kind of three goals that we want to design towards. The first was that it had to be context specific. We had to be able to display the educational data in an appropriate context with the visual representation. We also had to allow for data exploration. So because there's multiple granularities, both in time series, also topic-wise, and time-wise, and then you can also look at global trends across the class or zoom into specific students. And that's where our third goal came in. We wanted details on demand so that in addition to providing the context from goal one, that we would allow the visualization to present details only when there's an interaction so that we don't have too much clutter in the user experience. And then for the design towards these goals, for the towards the context specific and detailed demand goal, we associated topic words to the context and try to highlight, use highlight tools in the context with user interaction. But we also use the WordStream algorithm to visualize time series and topic evolution and representing the entry data on this horizontal timeline from left to right, which you'll see in a second. Then another design consideration was we used the word cloud algorithm to visualize topics at certain time points and enabled multiple topic selection so that we could emphasize the topics that the instructor is interested in and also to explore diversity and multiple views that the students have. So what we'll show is the WordStream view, which demonstrates a time series visual representation of the evolution of topics of interest that are appearing in the student journals over time. And we'll also show the summary word cloud view, which presents a more focus on specific topics for a given week of prompts. And these tools were implemented in JavaScript in the D3.js library. So the last stage of our research was evaluation. Since this was a very exploratory study, we decided to use an informal user interaction. So we decided that we would focus on the technology acceptance model by Davis as the main framework, and then use actualized questionnaire developed by Perlman to connect to that. So we focused on two components, the perceived usefulness and the perceived ease of use. And we invited 3 instructors familiar with data visualization to participate in working with our tool and giving us feedback. So one taught research methods and data visualization, another was a STEM professor, and a computer science professor. Now, if you want to try out this interface for yourself, feel free to use the URL that appears on the screen. It's also linked in. And next, I'll show you a video of this as a demo, and I'll talk you through what you're seeing as you do that. Okay, so here we have our mouse going up, and you can see we're in the summary selection. So the summary view has 3 components: the journal weekly prompt selection, where you can select which week you want to focus on. We also have the word cloud for student responses, and notice that there are interactions available such as hover over, mouse link, or mouse click that allows you to highlight terms. And then we also have a selection available using the drop down for the week. What that allows us to do is to look at the details of the topics and responses. And as you can see, topics are side by side with the in-context use of the term, which allows us to see. And here you also see that the verbs are tokenized such that the similar root word is combined. And we also see the adjectives having similar attributes. Next, we'll look at the word stream. So again, we can kind of hover over and click on particular topics and see how those topics have evolved over time. And you can see, certain words become more prevalent in different times. And here we also have the view of topic evolution and the student responses broken down by sentence level, which allows for them to be searchable in a data table. And we can again use some interactive features with the table, explore the temporal patterns over time, and use the mouse over and click over tools to identify trends. And notice that as you click these, it's going to pull up the student responses that had those in there, as well as a searchable search bar to further drill down into the data. So overall, you can see the word stream helps to show the prompt reference as well as the topic evolution and the student responses. So once we developed this tool, it was time to evaluate it with our user study. And so as mentioned, we use the perceived ease of use and usefulness as our kind of main framework. And so we ask questions like this. So after watching the tutorial and using a tool, using the interface, the 3 faculty were surveyed and they were asked questions like these. So as an instructor, how well does the app allow you to explore the details of the students' responses? Explain. As an instructor, how well does the app help you to make instructional decisions related to student progress? Explain. And there are several more questions, which you can see in the paper. Overall, it seemed that it was perceived as easy to use and useful. Without looking at the detail, I can glance over the word stream to catch up on students' attitudes or behaviors over the course of a week. Positive words are expected to appear as students begin to learn new things and are excited. But this also came with a lot of limitations. So it allows for assessing students based on core words and relevant words. The main criticism was that we're really just doing a word count in these visuals. So for instance, this other instructor said, frequency of words may not be the only measurement to reflect the importance of a topic. And word frequency alone does not sufficiently support discernment of other trends in the student experience. So we were pleased to see that they were able to use the tool well and could find the information about the students, but also recognize that these kind of word count displays, while rich, still have some fundamental problems. And so in conclusion, our conclusions are that the tool has perceived ease of use and usefulness, and they do honor the qualitative properties by showing the context embedded nature of the data and allow kind of a rich exploration and drill down. But there are some fundamental challenges that still exist. So both WordStream and WordCloud depend on frequency of a word count, and that's still taking the topics and turning them into a quantity, which again kind of loses some of the qualia that is attached with the rich context-laden qualitative data. And another complaint was that there's very little about how the cognitive ideas were developing individually or as a class. Oftentimes the peaks in the word topic have more to do with the prompts that were being asked that week than necessarily a measure of their assessment. And so future work would probably focus on these challenges, trying to use cognitive change and integrate the criteria-based rubric, and also figuring out how to use language in combination to kind of show the co-occurrence of ideas. We could use the same prompt over time, but that would oftentimes defeat the purpose of these reflections if it was the same question every week. So standardizing would kind of run against the broader challenge that we're trying to create a tool that could be used in a variety of contexts to support qualitative data. And there's this really highlights the kind of fundamental clash. So there's a need to structure the data in order to work uh, with the visualization, but that also kind of limits the availability for the qualitative researcher in showing the things that they see. So how do you integrate theory and the methodology and the interpretations that guide the researcher in making inferences about their data? And overall, this just speaks to more attention being needed for integrating qualitative approaches into data visualization. So with that, I'd like to acknowledge our funding. This was provided through a small grant through the Thornton Research Conferences, and that was supported by NASA. And we'd also like to thank the 3 professors who participated in our study. And in particular, we'd also like to thank Dr. Tommy Dang, who provided useful feedback and support for our graduate student, Huyen. So thank you. And for a complete list of our references, I refer you to our paper since it's a pretty long list. Thank you. Have a great time. Enjoy the conference.